Please, to the gospel according to John. John chapter 3 is where we will find our opening text this morning. How many are thankful for the word of God today? Appreciate the word. We're reading here today from the New King James Version. John chapter 3, verse number 1. It says, "There was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews. And this man came to Jesus by night and said to him, 'Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher come from God, for no one can do these signs that you do unless God is with him.' And Jesus answered and said to him, 'Most assuredly I say to you, unless one is born again, he cannot,'" everybody say he cannot. Now, again, these are the words of Jesus here. "He cannot see the kingdom of God." Nicodemus said to him, "How can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter a second time into his mother's womb and be born?" Jesus answered, "Most assuredly I say to you, unless one is born of water and the Spirit, he cannot enter the kingdom of God. For that which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. Do not marvel that I say to you, you must be born again." You must be born again. Can we say that last line together? You must be born again. On July 4th, 1776, our country was born as one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. But now, 248 years later, our nation desperately needs to be born again. In honor of the holiday in which we just celebrated, July 4th, we are bringing a message to you today entitled, "America Needs Jesus." America needs Jesus. Now notice here what we didn't say this morning. We didn't say that America needs another stimulus package. We didn't say that America needs another tax break, although that would be nice. We don't need another government bailout. We don't need another program from a polished, fancy, easy-speaking politician. We don't need another political party to rise up and try to save us. In fact, we don't need anything that the government could do for us. Can I say we don't even need another presidential debate? God help us. God help us. The truth is this: we don't need anything that man can offer. We don't need anything that man can offer. Because the truth is this, and I hate to say it this morning because I love our country, but we have collapsed so far. We have become so morally bankrupt as a nation that now the only person who can help us is God himself. Can anybody say amen? We just missed a good place to shout right there. Only God can help us now. No political party, no movement, no man, no woman, no new president will be able to pull us out of the hole that we as a nation have went down. But God. But God. The psalmist David says this in Psalms 33:12. Blessed or blessed, however you want to say it, basically means the same thing. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. It's not the fact that we don't have gods in our nation today. but who is the God that we're serving? That's the question. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the people he has chosen as his own inheritance. Now, if this statement here by David is true, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, which I believe it's a true statement. How many believe it's a true statement? It's in the Word, so it's got to be true, right? If that is true, then I believe we can say some other things on the other hand. Again, if blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, then we can say things like, cursed is the nation whose God is money. Cursed is the nation whose God is their belly. Come on, somebody help me preach this morning. Cursed is the nation whose God is houses, lands, jobs, hobbies, cars, sports, pleasure, or any other idol that we might have. Today, the choice is ours. We either get to choose the blessing or the curse. As individuals, and especially as Christians, we must choose either to live under the blessing or to live under the curse. The Bible says this: we must either choose life or death. And it gives us the answer. It says, go ahead and choose life that you might live. How many like it when the teacher gives you the answer? Choose life that you might live. As we are gathered here today, Sunday, July 7th, 2024, just a couple of days after celebrating our independence, America as we know it stands at a crossroads. And we must choose quickly which way we're going to go, because our fate as a nation desperately depends on it. I would say the generations to follow us depends on it, but can I say this? If we make the wrong choice, there might not be generations to come. Does everybody understand the urgency of the hour that we live in? Our fate as a nation desperately depends on the choice we make here today. And just because we are privileged and entitled Americans, I say that with tongue in cheek, it doesn't mean that sin doesn't have a negative effect on us. God has blessed America to such a degree that sometimes I think we are above the law. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I hate to say it, but sometimes we think that we're better than everybody else. But how many know sin is sin, and there's always a paycheck for sin? The Bible declares that the wages of sin is death. The Apostle Paul tells us this in Galatians chapter 6, verse 7. He says, do not be deceived, for God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, or we could substitute in there, for whatever a nation sows, that he will also reap. That he will also reap. Now, in case we haven't noticed, and that kind of sounds like a funny statement, but I admit sometimes that it's hard to notice because it's a gradual effect. It's been a slow fade. what's happened in our nation hasn't happened overnight, but it's been decades in the making. And I hate to say this, but living in America, oftentimes we have become desensitized. And yes, sometimes it's difficult to remember just how far we have fallen. But in case we haven't noticed, I believe judgment has already begun here in America. Just the beginning, but I believe it's already begun. Now, granted, it starts out slowly. And like we've said before, there's a big difference between God's judgment and God's wrath. God's judgment is really His love in just another form. It's His correction. It's His bidding for us to come back to where we need to be. In fact, the judgments of God are a good thing because it proves to us just how much He really does love us. Whom the Lord loves, He what? He chastens, He corrects. Sometimes that comes as judgment. And so the truth is, we can come back from judgment, but how many know we can't come back from the wrath of God? I do believe judgment in whatever manner has begun. But I believe also God has given us a window of opportunity to repent. And that, my friend, is exactly what we need to do here today. You say, well, Steve, I'm not really associating with what you're saying here because, I'm even though I'm not perfect, I'm basically doing what I need to be doing. I'm going to church, I'm praying, I'm seeking the Lord, I'm doing what I can. And yes, I get that, but how many understand that as an American, we can stand in the gap and make up the hedge for our nation? In fact, I would go as far to say that we can plead the blood of Jesus for America. Come on, anybody believe that? We can stand in the gap. We can make up the hedge. We can petition heaven today. We can petition the throne of grace with our prayers. And I believe we can even repent for the sins of our nation. I want you to write this next phrase down. When America refuses to be good, that is when we cease to be great. When America refuses to be good, that is when we cease to be great. And that's not just a cute little saying, but look what the Word of God says here in Proverbs chapter 14, verse 34. It says, righteousness does what? Exalts. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin, everybody say, but sin. But sin is a reproach to any people. Isn't it amazing how sin affects all of us? The young, the old, the rich, the poor, doesn't matter what age, gender, race. Prolonged, habitual, unrepented sin will not go unpunished. Let me say that again. Prolonged, habitual, unrepented sin will not go unpunished. Even if we are Americans. Even if we have been blessed by God. Amen? We've used this passage a couple of times here recently in our Wednesday night Bible studies, and I want to look at it real quick here this morning. It's found in Ecclesiastes chapter 8. And how many are thankful for the grace of God today? We talked about this during communion. None of us would be here, obviously, without the grace of God. But with the grace of God comes this responsibility. And if we're not comfortable, if we're not careful, we will become too comfortable in this thing called grace. Okay? Let's read. Verse number 11. Because the sentence or the judgment against an evil work is not executed speedily or right away. Therefore, the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do what? To do evil. In other words, they're thinking they're going to always get away with it. Though a sinner does evil 100 times and his days are prolonged, yet I surely know that it will be well with those who do what? Fear the Lord. Everybody say, fear God. How many know fear is the beginning of wisdom? How many know we need the fear of God back in the church house today? Yet I surely know that it will be well with those who fear God, who fear before him. But it will not be well with the wicked, nor will he prolong his days, which are as a shadow, because he does not fear before God. We can't mistake God's amazing grace as his acceptance of our sin. Does that make sense? When we find ourselves living in sin, and how many know our nation as a whole, that's where we're at. We're living in sin. But just because God hasn't judged that immediately, we can't take that as his acceptance of our sin. Does that make any sense to anybody? I'm trying to help somebody here today. And the reason why we say this is because the window of grace will stay open for only so long. Right? That window of grace will stay open for only so long. Like we say, the opportunity of a lifetime must be seized during the lifetime of the opportunity. How many are thankful that you live in the age of grace? Can I tell you, it would behoove us to take advantage of this grace while we have a chance? I don't mean take advantage of it in a bad way, but exercise it. Grab a hold of it. Make your calling and election sure. Amen? But I believe our days as a free, sovereign, wealthy, healthy, so to speak, nation are numbered if we don't repent soon. Now, the answer to the dilemma that we find ourselves in as a nation is found in 2 Chronicles chapter 7. Isn't it amazing that God knows the mess that we're going to get ourselves in even before it happens? Think about that. Even before things happen, watch this. God comes up with the remedy. He makes the way of escape. 2 Chronicles chapter 7, we all know it, but let's read verse 13 here as well. When I shut up the heaven and there is no rain, or command the locusts to devour the land, or send pestilence among my people, and all of those things are God's judgments. That's what those are. But here's what we must do. It's found in verse 14. And really, it's a formula. It starts out with this simple two-letter word, if. Everybody say if. If. If my people. Notice he didn't say the Democrats, the Republicans, the rich people, the poor people. But he said of my people. Meaning you and I, the church. How many know we have what the world needs, and his name is Jesus? We have the solution. We have the answer to the problem. If my people who are called by my name will what? Humble themselves, that's number one. And pray, that's number two. Seek my face, that's number three. And what? Turn from their wicked ways. Wow. He's not asking the world to do this. He's asking us to do this. And then he gives us the promise. If we do those four things, then he will hear from heaven and he will forgive their sin and he will what? That's what we need. How many know America needs a healing? America needs a healing. I think we asked this the other day. I can't remember exactly when we did. But anybody 50 years or older, wave at me right here. I know you don't want to admit it, but how many know this is not the same nation you were born in? Not the same Andy Griffith nation that we grew up in as a child. Our land needs a healing. And God offers us the opportunity to experience that healing. He offers us forgiveness of our sins. And he offers to hear from heaven. But we must do our part. We must humble ourselves. We must pray. We must seek his face. And we must turn from our wicked ways. That, my friend, is the only thing that can save us now. We made this statement, only God can save us now. But watch this, let's take it to the next level. How many understand God can't help us unless we're willing to help ourselves? Watch this, God can't do his part until we do our part first. God can't hear from anybody. Help me. Come on this morning. Somebody help me preach. God cannot hear from heaven. He will not forgive our sin. He will not hear our land unless we do the four-part step to begin with. Now, if we do our part, then God is bound by his own word to do his part. So really, it's not God's duty to save us. It's not God's responsibility to save us, but it's ours. How many see that today? It's our responsibility. And I believe if we ever needed to catch that vision, if we ever needed to get a burden, it's now. As American Christians, if we would just begin to shake ourselves and see the urgency of the hour. Because I admit it's so easy to just become distracted and go through life and get complacent and just go through the motions. But no, we've got to shake ourselves. We've got to awaken ourselves. What did Isaiah say? He said, arise and shine, for your light has come. Oh yeah, the darkness is great, but how many know the light can shine brighter in a dark place? How many want to let your light shine before men? The church has to be part of the solution. I think we've been part of the problem for too long. We've just kind of been complacent. We've done our things on Sundays, Wednesdays, just kind of tolerated some things, cohabitated and just, but now it's time to stand up. Now it's time to let our voice be heard. And I'm not saying be ugly and rude and go out and protest and do crazy things, but just simply stand up, be a light, be a witness. Let our voice be heard. Come on. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. To get a little boldness about us, to get a little urgency. Right? We've got to be part of the solution. I want us to shift our focus here a little bit as we look at these next couple of scriptures. In Proverbs chapter 29, verse 2, we know the church has a great responsibility. And I'm not looking for the White House to get it right, but I am looking for the church house to get it right. Amen? I know the White House is important, but listen, the White House doesn't set the spiritual climate for the nation. The church does. We do. But yet, with that being said, there's something to be said about leadership. And so let's make that shift right here. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 2. It says, when the righteous are in authority, or in other words, leadership, the people what? The people rejoice. Notice that. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. Notice that he didn't say when the Republicans are in authority, or when the Democrats, or when the independents, or the wigwags, or whoever you want to call yourself. But when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when a wicked man rules, the people groan. The people groan. Proverbs 28:2. This is the NIV version. I love this. Proverbs 28:2. When a country is rebellious, it has many rulers. Many as in you don't know who's calling the shots. You don't know who's pulling what. But a ruler with discernment and knowledge maintains order. Church, can I tell you, if we've ever been in a situation where we need strong, consistent leadership in our nation, it's now. It's now. It's now. Now again, like we said earlier, a man is not the answer, a woman is not the answer, a political party is not the answer. But yet there's something to be said about God-fearing men and women in leadership. Men and women that fear God. Men and women who have godly principles. If we are going to see a true turnaround in our nation, if we are going to see a sustained move of God where the curse of sin lifts off our land, then we must have God-fearing men and women in positions of authority and leadership. And I understand, many don't want to get political, and I don't either. I don't care for politics. But listen, when the heathen rage, when the ungodly are in authority, it's ugly. It's a mess. We need God-fearing men and women in positions of authority and leadership in our nation if we're going to sustain this country much longer. If not, we're going to simply implode. We're going to destruct from within. I draw our attention today to one of the greatest leaders of all time, known throughout the Word of God. His name was Moses. Let's turn to Exodus chapter 18. And I want us to look at this story here real quick. Exodus chapter 18, verse number 13. And so it was on the next day that Moses sat to judge the people. And the people stood before Moses from morning until evening. And so when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did for the people, he said, "What is this thing that you are doing for the people? Why do you sit alone, and all the people stand before you from morning until evening?" And Moses said to his father-in-law, because the people come to me to inquire of God. And when they have a difficulty, they come to me, and I judge between one and another, and I make known the statutes of God and his laws. So Moses, his father-in-law, said to him, the thing that you do is not good. Now, it was good what Moses was doing, but how many understand he wasn't doing it the right way? Moses had all the good intentions, all the best of intentions, but he wasn't doing it the right way. Verse 18, both you and these people who are with you will surely wear yourselves out. For this thing is too much for you. You are not able to perform it by yourself. Listen now to my voice, and I will give you counsel. How many know there's safety in the multitude of counsel? Listen now to my voice, and I will give you counsel, and God will be with you. And stand before God, before the people, so that you may bring the difficulties to God. And you shall teach them the statutes of the laws, and show them the way in which they must walk, and the work they must do. Moreover, you shall select from all the people able men such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10s. And let them judge the people at all times. Then it will be that every great matter they shall bring to you, but every small matter they themselves shall judge. So it will be easier for you that they will bear the burden with you. And if you do this thing and God so commands you, then you will be able to endure, and all this people will also go to their place in peace. So Moses did what? Moses heeded the voice of his father-in-law and did all that he had said. And Moses chose able men out of all Israel and made them heads over the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, 50s and 10s, and so on. And they judged the people at all times. The hard cases they brought to Moses, but they judged every small case themselves. Then Moses let his father-in-law depart, and he went his way to his own land. Moses heeded the voice of reason. He heeded the voice of wisdom which came through his father-in-law Jethro. And because of that, he was blessed, and the people of God were blessed. But the key to all of this is what Jethro told Moses here in verse 21. Let's look at it again. None of it works unless this happens. Moreover, you shall select from all the people able men such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s. Able men and women. In other words, we could say able leaders. How many know our nation desperately needs able leaders right now? We've already said it. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. Now, let me say this, and we're going to close. But I want us to be perfectly clear on this point. We all know that this is an election season that we're in right now. And from now to November, I promise you it's going to get crazy. I promise you. We're going to see some crazy things happen between now and November. But can I remind us that the most important animal, can you guys put that first picture up? The most important animal in this election season isn't the elephant nor the donkey. Can anybody say amen? Hello? But the most important animals in this season, as well as in every season, is the lion and the lamb. Hello? Woo! First of all, the Lamb who was slain before the foundations of the world. John saw Jesus coming and he said, behold the Lamb of God, which takes away the sins of the world. And then we have the Lion of the tribe of Judah. How many know the first time Jesus came, he came as Mary's little lamb? But how many know when Jesus comes back the second time, he's coming as the Lion of the tribe of Judah? Woo! As conquering King of kings and Lord of lords. Woo! So in this crazy election season, don't get caught up with the donkey and the elephant. But just keep your eyes on the lion and the lamb. Hallelujah. Looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. For it's in him that we live and move and have our very being. And can I tell you, it doesn't really matter who is president, because Jesus Christ is still King. Jesus Christ is still Lord of lords. Woo! Hallelujah! God is still in control this morning. God is still on the throne. He's alive and well. And that, my friend, is where our focus needs to be. That's where our allegiance needs to be. And listen, I love this nation. I love our flag. I love what it stands for. But listen, can I tell you, God didn't die to save the Union. Can I tell you, Jesus didn't die on an old rugged cross to save the Union, but he died on an old rugged cross to save sinners just like you and I. And you know what? The Union might go down, but how many know the Church of Jesus Christ will never be defeated? I said you and I, the Church of Jesus Christ, we will never be defeated. That's why we need to get into the old ship of Zion. That's why we need to make sure our calling in an election is sure. Because I hate to say this, there's going to come a day when the U.S. government's not going to be able to save us. Our money's not going to be able to save us. Our doctors, our health care, our 401k, not going to be able to save us. But God. That's it. But God. Whoa, how many are thankful there is a God in heaven? You say, Steve, have you given up on America? No, I haven't. I believe if you and I, the church, are still here, there's still a chance. And I believe that call is still going out. If my people. In other words, that window of grace is still open, but man, we got to hurry up. We got to be busy about our Father's business like we talked about the other day. My last scripture in closing, praise team, you can come. Paul says this in 1 Timothy chapter 2. He says, therefore I exhort first of all that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for who? All men. Be made for all men, for kings, and all who are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and reverence. For this is good and acceptable in the sight of God, our Savior, who desires all men to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. How many know it's not God's will that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance? Woo! What a responsibility we have as the church. You know, when you stop and you think about our country, the United States of America, you know, it's really remarkable, isn't it? In fact, there's never been another nation quite like America. A country of immigrants, sometimes a country of misfits. Well, no, that would be a good description of today, wouldn't it? But a nation that is only 248 years old. When you look at some of the other nations of the world, they've been around a whole lot longer than we have. But a country that has only been here for 248 years, yet somehow we have risen to such world prominence as well as a world power. We provide so many good things to the world. We have become so intelligent, wealthy, and blessed. But yet it's been for only one reason. Not because we were better, not because we were smarter, not because we were some hyper race better than y'all, better than the rest of y'all. No. Simply been because God has blessed us. The hand of God has been on us. His blessing has been upon us. And I believe personally that the United States of America has been raised up for such a time as this. I believe as a nation we have been raised up for God's plans and purposes. And there's two specific reasons why I believe America has been raised up in the last 248 years. Number one is to simply get out the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. America has sent more missionaries around the world than any other nation. We send out Christian radio, internet, television. How many understand that you and I today right here, Little Full Gospel, Little Lincoln, we are going around the world with the gospel? The second reason why I believe we've been raised up as a nation is to be a friend and a defender of Israel. Now here's what's important. If we ever stop doing those two things as a nation, then we refuse to fulfill the mission that God has sent us here to do. If we ever stop getting out the gospel, if we ever stop sending out missionaries, if we ever stop being a friend and a defender of Israel, then I believe God's blessings and promises are forfeited. I believe His hand of protection is lifted if we stop those two things. With everything that's going on in the Middle East right now, watch Israel. Watch Israel. Keep your eyes on Israel. And just know this, if we ever turn our back on Israel as a nation, America, if we ever turn our back on Israel, God will turn His back on us. God will turn His back on us. So today our only answer is Jesus. It's so simple. I hope it doesn't go in one ear and out the other. But America needs God. And the way that happens is 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14. If we're looking for man to do this, we're going to be sadly disappointed. If we're looking for a political party to solve all of our problems, if we're looking for a new president to get us out of this mess, we're going to be greatly disappointed. But if my people How many my people do we have here today? My people. Let's stand together. If you're anything like me,